Chapter 22: Life, Health, and Current Events. The kids planned a 90th birthday party for me, and it was wonderful. Relatives came from all over: Erwin and Jan, Meir and Nava, Steve Safran and Barbara, Ian, Nelina, Amita and Arun Pallenbaum, Avner, Michelle and Yoni Garin, Billy and Vicky, Lee Safran, Jerry and Susan, Ken and Adar, Josh and Randy, Eli, Ronnie, and Noam, my immediate family who provided the entertainment and planned the affair, Rachel and Henry Cross, Jim Weiner and Vicky Fleming, and Peter Weiner, Lana Lane, and Olivia Weiner. A few days after the happiest of celebrations, my brother Mickey passed away at age 91 plus, and from the heights of happiness to the depths of grief, we and several of his basketball buddies bid him goodbye as he was laid to rest next to his wife Sharon in Wells, Maine. On October 7th, 2023, Hamas launched a surprise attack against Israel and killed over 1,200 Israelis and took over 1,000 hostages. It is December 28th, 2023, as I write this. Israel has unleashed air bombardments that have devastated Gaza. The air bombardments have killed over 20,000 Gazan Palestinians. Israeli ground forces have located and destroyed several Hamas tunnels. One negotiated ceasefire allowed for the exchange of hostages held by Hamas and the release of prisoners held by Israel. Israel's continual air bombing has taken a significant death toll on the civilian population of Gaza, and world opinion seems to have shifted to bring pressure on Israel to agree to a ceasefire. It is now January 2024. As I write this and the war in Gaza drags on, over 100 hostages are still held by Hamas. On a more pleasant note, we just had our first snowstorm of the year, January 15th, of about 3 inches, and it is beautiful to see. It is now August 19th, 2024, and the war in Gaza goes on with peace talks unencouragingly moving slowly on. Hamas still holds over 100 hostages. Israel has killed over 40,000 Palestinians, including women and children, and has been severely criticized throughout the world for this. Meanwhile, Hezbollah in Lebanon has increased its rocket attacks, threatening to open a second front against Israel. To increase the danger to Israel, Iran has threatened to seriously retaliate against Israel for its assassination of a top Iranian official. Diana and I have been in our condo in Ogunquit, Maine since early July. Jimmy, Rachel, and Henry have stopped by at various times. Henry has been extraordinary and helpful. We've had several visitors this month, among them Erwin and Jan Cohen, Steve and Lee Safran. For my 91st birthday on August 17th, Cindy and Matt, her husband, Avner joyfully led the service, and we all joined in singing. Michelle cooked wonderful meals, and they were consumed with gusto. It was heartwarming to be reunited with our Israeli family. On a personal note, I might mention, as I write this, that at age 91, my hearing loss is slowly getting worse, even with my hearing aids. Also, because of the medication I take, I bruise very easily, but life goes on, and I'm very thankful and lucky to have the love and support of my family. Diana and I are still in love with each other as we approach our 67th wedding anniversary in January of 2025. The political scene in the USA is most interesting. President Biden dropped out of the race, and Harris, his VP, is the Democrats' choice to face Republican Trump. We'll have to wait until November, and the votes are counted for the results. If Democrat Harris wins, she will be our first female president. If she loses and Trump, a convicted felon, is elected, I feel our democracy and all it stands for is in serious jeopardy. It is now August 31st, 2024, as I write this portion of my autobiography, The War in Gaza Goes On. In the north, Hezbollah seems to be ramping up its attacks on Israel. At the same time, Iran has yet to carry out its threatened retaliatory attacks against Israel. Meanwhile, Israel has carried out massive military action on the West Bank against Arab terrorists. This essentially has Israel fighting a 3-front war. The U.S. has deployed 2 carrier forces to discourage Iranian action against Israel. Several family members from Israel visited Ogunquit, and it was wonderful that Diana and I had the chance to see them. We plan to leave Ogunquit on the 3rd of September and return to our Riderwood apartment. Diana came down with a case of shingles, which necessitated our going to the York Hospital facility in Wells. They diagnosed her medical situation and prescribed medication, which they ordered from the pharmacy in Wells. Diana's outbreak of shingles was on her forehead and dangerously near her right eye. It was painful and worrisome. Jim arrived by train from Washington to drive us home to Maryland. It was necessary to delay our trip home for 4 days until Diana's condition improved. So our summer vacation came to a stressful conclusion. Iran carried out a massive missile attack on Israel. Israel's defense missiles, Iron Dome, shot down most of the Iranians' missiles, and no Israeli between the warring deaths or serious damage was reported. The U.S. fleet in the western Mediterranean Sea also intercepted many of the Iranian missiles and drones. The world is on edge regarding the yet-to-occur Israeli response to the Iranian attack. It is now, March 2025. Israel and Hamas has completed stage 1 of a hostage exchange. Several Israeli corpses, along with surviving hostages, were returned to Israel in the exchange. Back in November, Trump was elected president and took office in January 2025. Since then, he and Elon Musk have, in my opinion, seriously undermined our democracy. It's now, June 1st, 2025. The war in Gaza goes on. Israel keeps bombing Gaza and Hamas targets. Over 50,000 Gazans have been killed by Israel, and world opinion is growing against Israel. Yet, under Netanyahu's leadership, the war goes on amid continuing negotiations between the warring parties, Israel and Hamas. World opinion is turning against Israel, and anti-Semitism is growing worldwide. On a happier note, we celebrated Diana's 90th birthday with relatives at a fancy hotel, English type tea. This was a party arranged by Rachel and was a big success. Shortly after the celebration, Rachel went on her third 500-mile trek. This one was across northern Spain. Meanwhile, Jimmy continued to be of enormous help to Diana and me. He undertook and arranged for help from Riderwood's Home Assistant Program, while at the same time negotiating with UNUM on Diana's continuing care insurance. He also has undertaken to pay all my and Diana's bills as they come due, but with our money. Jim has been a true blessing to me as he has undertaken so many tasks that I am no longer capable of handling. Meanwhile, out in Utah, my youngest son, Peter, has his own business creating videos for various clients. He is enormously creative and talented. He has met a wonderful woman, Lana, and the two of them will be traveling to Scotland where they will get married and tour for a few weeks this summer of 2025. Diana and I have often discussed how fortunate we are to have such wonderful children. As I age, I am becoming more philosophical about life and death. I've spent more time on doctor's appointments and in caring for Diana, who has mild dementia and is unable to do many household tasks. It is difficult to adjust to the aging process, but I accept the fact that being almost 92 years of age as I write this autobiography is a blessing. So, while my hearing is not so good, my hearing aids are excellent, and I can still hear quite clearly when I use them. My eyesight is okay, but I need reading glasses to read the paper and books. I notice that I tire more easily and don't get enough exercise. While I am reluctant to admit it, in 2 close calls driving home from Maine last summer, I barely avoided 2 accidents. Now I drive only to the giant grocery store, which is 3 blocks from Riderwood, where Diana and I live. While I have a state of Maryland driver's license valid until August 20th, 2099, I plan on giving up driving except for groceries, sometime shortly after I celebrate my 92nd birthday. I will still drive to Rachel and Henry's on occasion. As I continue to write in my autobiography, the news at home and in the USA and around the world is getting worse. It is now mid-June of 2025, and the major upsetting events are Israel and Iran are at a full-scale war with drones and anti-drone armaments being fired at each other's countries. Israel initiated the attack on Iran in an attempt to weaken or destroy her nuclear bomb development progress. Iran has responded with bombings of Haifa and other Israeli cities with moderate success, as Israel's Iron Dome defensive systems have moderate success in downing incoming Iranian drones. On the political front here in America, President Trump held a military parade in Washington, D.C. It was modestly attended, while millions throughout the United States marched in protests against Trump and his growing militaristic regime. The division in U.S. society is terrifying as Trump has endeavored to deport longtime non-citizens from the country. While the country has a growing chasm between the Republican far right and the Democrats' weakening left, the United States is in serious danger under Trump of reverting to the kind of schisms that tore the country apart before the Civil War, and then later in the Depression years. It took the genius of an Abraham Lincoln to save the country and the tenacity of Franklin Roosevelt to save our democracy. But enough of these distressing observations. Diana and I plan on going to our Maine condo in early July. Meanwhile, although this is my biography, events occurring around the world cannot be ignored. On June 22nd, the U.S. bombed 3 of Iran's nuclear sites. Iran has partially responded by bombing Tel Aviv with long-range rockets. Although they were mostly intercepted, some got through Israel's Iron Dome defensives and caused damage to Tel Aviv. The U.S. attack on Iran's nuclear facilities was carried out without congressional consultation and approval. While many approved of the U.S. action and Trump's decision-making without congressional approval, which has always been required before military action, such action was illegal without congressional approval. More on this later as Iran's actions clarify. Israel and Iran have agreed to a ceasefire. There are mixed reports on the effects of the U.S. bombing strike on Iran's nuclear underground facilities. The weather in Maryland has been dangerously hot. For the last few days, it has been over 90 degrees. So much for the naysayers about climate change. It is June 26th in the year 2025 as I write this section of my biography. Both Diana and I, accompanied by Rachel, will be flying up to our Maine Lookout condo on July 10th. Henry will drive up a few days earlier with all our luggage. Diana and I plan on staying in Maine until sometime in August when Jim will drive us home. We have been fortunate to have a professional caregiver, Joyce, to help Diana 3 days a week. She has taken over many of the tasks that I did. It has made my job caring for Diana much less difficult. Fortunately, Diana's dementia is mild, and she is coping with it wonderfully. As I approach age 92, I recognize a diminishment in both my memory and physical stamina, but I am generally in pretty good health and cheerful as well as thankful. Both Diana and I, in our 90s, now recognize we have a lot to be thankful for. Thinking back over the years, I believe that even with all the disheartening political turmoil, Jimmy Stewart was right when he starred in It's a Wonderful Life. It is now the last day of June in the year 2025. The weather here in Maryland has been in the 90s for several days now. Diana has not been very active and slept for most of the last 2 days. It is worrisome. In just 10 days, we are scheduled to fly to Maine and settle into our condo for a few months to enjoy the cool Maine ocean breezes. Rachel has made arrangements to meet with professional caregivers to aid Diana. Keep listening for more information on how that all turned out. Sunday, July 20th, 2025, turned out to be a day to remember. I decided to spend the whole day with Diana and let us have some fun together. We drove to Kittery Trading Post, and Diana spent over an hour looking at clothes and enjoying herself. We then went to When Pigs Fly and bought a couple of loaves of bread. Heading back to Ogunquit, we stopped in at the Chinese restaurant and ate supper. It was raining hard at this time. We arrived back at the Lookout while it was still light out. I dropped Diana off, and she went into the Lookout while I parked the car. She usually waits for me in the lobby after I park the car, and we go up to our apartment together. Diana was not in the lobby waiting for me as usual. I figured that she went up to our apartment, so I went up. Our apartment is on the 4th floor, and the door was locked. I went in, and no lights were on, and Diana was not there. I thought she may have stopped to visit her brother on the 2nd floor. She was not there. I was now very concerned as she was missing for over a half hour. A young lady came by and helped me look for her. She yelled to me that she found Diana. I rushed to her. She was sitting on the stairs on the far side of the Lookout from our apartment, looking dazed and very confused. She did not remember where our apartment was or what floor it was on. I took her upstairs to our condo where she regained her senses and normal awareness. Fortunately, we had hired a caregiver for Diana, and she turned out to be excellent. Her name was Tammy. She undertook tasks that gave me relief, such as doing the laundry, disposing of rubbish, vacuuming the floors, preparing lunch for Diana, and taking Diana for walks. She was a tremendous help to both Diana and me. We had several relatives visit us as the summer days waned. Erwin and Jan, Meir and Nava stayed in their apartment at the Lookout. Avnir, Michelle, and Yoni stayed in Meir's apartment as the summer waned and fall approached. Before Avnir and family arrived, Meir fell, and he and Nava returned quickly to Israel. Meir had aged noticeably. Jimmy flew up from D.C. to help prepare for the trip home with Diana. Before they left, Peter flew in from Utah to help me drive back to Maryland. It was the first time since his summer wedding in Scotland to Lana that we had seen him. He had kept us up to date with wedding pictures and photos from places they visited in Scotland and England. Lana made a beautiful bride, and Diana and I are thrilled that she is now part of our family. Jim flew home to Maryland with Diana. The next day, Peter and I drove home to Maryland. Peter did all the driving. While we expected the drive to be easy and uneventful, it turned out to be an unwanted adventure. After stopping in Connecticut for brunch, the shit began to hit the proverbial fan. We got caught in a huge traffic jam, and Peter got messages on his computer ranging from warnings of long delays, possible alternate routes, and changing advisories. After a significant delay, the traffic moved past a horrific accident scene, and we were in the clear and on our way toward the Tappan Zee Bridge. All went well until about a half mile from the Delaware end of the New Jersey Turnpike. We blew a tire. We pulled off the road, and Peter put on the spare tire. Peter was amazing. We drove to the end of the turnpike to the nearest gas station, where Peter was informed the nearest tire place was a Firestone garage and store. We crossed the Delaware Bridge and headed toward the Firestone garage. When we got to within less than 1/10 of a mile of the garage, we came to a railroad crossing, and the crossing bars came down just as we approached. We thought we were going to be delayed. It was 6:40 p.m. and the garage closed at 7 p.m. We made it to the garage in time, and the mechanic took off the spare tire that Peter had put on and replaced it with a Firestone tire. We were at last on our way home, again. We stopped at the Maryland house for a snack and arrived safely home at Riderwood close to 10 p.m. What should have been an 8-hour trip took 14 hours. September 17th, 2025. Meanwhile, the war against Hamas continues as Israel relentlessly attacks Gaza City and forces its civilian population to flee. World opinion sees Israel's continuing advance militarily into Gaza as genocide, and criticism against Israel has increased throughout the world. Hamas still holds 20 Israeli hostages, and Israel has sworn to continue fighting until Hamas is defeated. Here in the USA, a popular right-wing Republican, Charlie Kirk, was assassinated, and the political polarization in the country seems to be out of control. As I witness such vindictiveness in the country, I have a growing feeling that America has lost its sense of democracy and is in real danger of slipping into a semi-dictatorship under Trump. With Trump's tariffs and political appointments, the United States is in a very dangerous period. The rise of China and its alliance with the Soviet Union under Putin, plus North Korea, constitutes a significant threat to our democracy. October 2nd, 2025, and the U.S. government has shut down as the Republicans and the Democrats failed to reach agreement. Meanwhile, the Israelis and Hamas are meeting in Egypt, trying to agree on a final peace agreement to end the war in Gaza and return Israeli hostages. Israel has demanded the total disarmament of Hamas. The meeting commenced this morning, October 6th, 2025. Keep listening for the results. Agreement has been reached, and the 20 surviving Israeli hostages held by Hamas have been released and returned to Israel. Hundreds of Hamas prisoners held by Israel have been freed and returned to Gaza. The exchange of prisoners took place on October 12th and 13th in an historic agreement. President Trump flew to Israel, where he addressed a packed and thankful Knesset. He was applauded by standing ovations as he asserted that a new era of peace in the Middle East was attainable. After addressing a packed Israeli Knesset, Trump flew to Egypt for further discussions with several countries' representatives to address the possible future for Gaza and the entire Mideast. It is now October 27th, 2025 as I write this. The LA Dodgers and the Toronto teams are tied at 3 games each in the 7-game World Series. Breaking news as I write this. Dodgers win on a home run in the 9th inning to tie the game and go on to win the Baseball 2025 World Series. In the NFL, the Washington Commanders are struggling as they fight many injuries. November 2025. Diana and I had a pleasant Thanksgiving dinner with Jimmy, Vicky, Henry, and Rachel at a nice restaurant. As Diana and I age, we become aware of how wonderful and caring our children are. December 2025. As we age, we tend to have less resistance to certain diseases. Both Diana and I have cancer growths that are scheduled for surgery and analysis early in February 2026. While we are hopeful that things will turn out all right, we are aware of our growing fatigues and need for rest. I'm 92 years old as I write this and am acutely aware that I tire easily. Diana is 90 and requires more sleep than I do. Our children seem to be aware that we are both slowly failing. Peter calls us more frequently, and Rachel and Henry are more attentive and visit frequently, often bringing meals for us with them. Also, Rachel keeps in close touch with us. Jimmy has been fantastic as he has undertaken all the financial aspects of both Diana and myself. He also visits us frequently. Vicky often visits with him and spends time talking with Diana. These are some of my observations as we are about to celebrate the new year 2026. January 1st, 2026. The big news story is the U.S. military operation in Venezuela and the capture of Maduro. Maduro allies in Venezuela are still in power and have large support within the country. President Trump has stated the U.S. will take over control of the country and its large petroleum assets until free elections take place. Trump has warned Canada, Greenland, Mexico, and others that what happened in Venezuela could happen to them. In my opinion, I strongly disagree with Trump's policies and actions without notifying Congress before taking such military actions and seeking their approval and advice. The United States under Trump is acting more and more like a dictatorship than a democracy. He has flaunted Congress and threatened other countries. The scariest thing about his actions is the support he is receiving from a Republican-dominated Congress. On the home front, both bad and good news. Diana was taken by ambulance to the hospital, suffering from dizziness and nausea. Rachel came over while Diana was still home and helped the medics and Diana prepare for her trip via ambulance to the hospital. I rode in the ambulance with Diana. Rachel stayed with Diana all night until the hospital deemed Diana in good enough condition to return home at 4 a.m. Rachel drove Diana home and stayed the rest of the night, or should I say morning, at our apartment at Riderwood. She had insisted I go home from the hospital at around 11 p.m., which I did. So much for the bad news. The good news is that Diana made a full recovery, the 14th of January, 2026. Now, back to the international news. Iran is experiencing massive gatherings against its administration. Over 1,000 citizens have been reported killed as they revolted against the Ayatollah and his administration. The U.S. is reportedly moving some troops and equipment out of its bases near Iran. Meanwhile, President Trump, while threatening some undefined action against Iran, is stepping up the pressure on Greenland. Trump's endangering the NATO alliance by threatening a takeover of Greenland, which is owned by NATO partner Denmark. Enough said about Trump and his unexplainable and dangerous foreign policy. Jimmy visited Diana and I today and provided us with valuable information and documents for us to sign. He has been a wonderful help in providing the necessary guidance to both Diana and me as we age and lose some of our cognitive abilities. We feel truly blessed to have such wonderful and caring and knowledgeable children. Last night, we celebrated our 68th wedding anniversary. As I was on our 3-step ladder to retrieve a vase for the flowers I bought for Diana, it slipped and I tumbled to the kitchen floor. Aside from a few bruises to my legs and shoulder, I seem to be okay. One might say Diana and I had a bang-up 68th anniversary party. This last week in January 20th, 2026, and early February 2026 have been horrific as the entire East Coast, as well as most of the eastern ocean-bordering states, have been unable to free their cars. Because of the temperatures remaining well below freezing both day and night, many homes in the D.C. area are snowbound. Fortunately, Diana and I live in a retirement community, and our apartment is well heated, and the parking lots are available to remove the frozen ice and shovel the snow so we can free our cars. March to April 2026. The United States and Israel attacked Iran in massive bombings. The Iranian Ayatollah was killed, as well as many major Iranian military personnel. Iran retaliated by sending rockets into Israel and many of its Iranian enemies' countries. As I write this, both Israel and the Americans in Israel were told to evacuate. The United States continue their bombings of Iran, and Iran has retaliated by sending rockets into Israel, most of which were destroyed prior to reaching their targets. The war widens as I write this, and Israel fights the Hezbollah in Lebanon as well as fighting Iran. Russia has aided Iran with target information as the war threatens to spread.